Okay, we'll start the session. So previously we discussed about the business rules which are available in consolidation, and except the elimination and adjustment business rule, we discussed the all other business rules which are part of consolidation. In order to discuss the elimination and adjustment, which is nothing but consolidation, there are other topics we need to cover before we go on with discussing the ownership methods, method-based multipliers, and elimination and adjustments, which is called consolidation of investments. We need to complete journals as well as controls, the two topics which are relevant for consolidation purposes before discussing on these particular things. First, we will discuss on the journals. With respect to journals, like in our FI, when we are posting entries, there are a lot of options like parking and all. The same way here also you can use save option and then post option. And if you want to unpost it, you have an option to unpost and log the journals. We'll discuss one by one what are all the different options that are available in journals and how to create a template and how to use the multiple options in the journals. In order to create the journals, if you go to models, consolidation, by default the journal template will be shown as off. Once you activate the journal, suppose if I am seeing planning application, see by default it will be off. Once you come here to the administration, features, journals, come here and create. First time when you are using, you have to create a new one using new option. Since we have already created, it is showing open. But once you start creating the template, system will automatically make that model as journal template on. You need not do anything, system will automatically do. When we are creating first time, you have to select new. Since we have already created, I am just going inside the template. When you are creating for the first time, here there will be some dimensions will be shown in header column and some dimension will be shown in the details column or line item column. According to your requirement, you can keep some of the dimensions in header and some of the dimensions in detail column depending upon the client journal's requirement. Generally, category will be at header level because we will be passing entries at actual level, and audit trail, generally we choose it as journals. Scope, time period, generally we will keep it in header level, and detail level will be account, flow, intercompany, entity, reporting currency. These things we have kept it in detail column. If you want, you can move this like this to the headers, and from here also you can move to this side. Before you save the template, you have to do all these things. Then there is something called additional headers. These are additional information which you want to put along with the journals. Like here, if you want to put additional things, you have to put add. Here you have two types. One is text and another is date. Whichever additional description you want to create, you can create. I have created two things. One is date column because I want to store when this entry has been posted, because in consolidation or planning we will be doing on monthly level. So in order to know on which date I have posted this entry, I just kept date as an additional header which can be filled up by the users when they are posting this journal entry, and then to which gap it relates to. This can be any additional headers, but for our understanding purpose, I have kept two line items. If you want, you can remove it and you can add any new values also. Here you can specify the length if it is a text field. If it is a date field, you have to mention the date. And here there are two things, balance by entity and balance by currency. If you remember, in SAP we will have debit is equal to credit at company code level. But when it comes to consolidation, when we are posting the entries, it will not be posting against a company code. We will be posting between multiple company codes and between scope also. That means between groups also we'll be posting. So at that point of time, if you want balance by currency or balance by entity also, you can choose it. If you leave it blank, then system will allow even the entity is not being tallied, and currency is also not tallied also, then system will allow the posting of data entry. It is up to you whether you want to keep it yes or no. If you want, you can keep it. Otherwise, you can make this field as a mandatory when you are posting the data entry. And then the next thing is called reopen rules. Reopen rules means sometimes when we want to reopen the same entry in the next period, what is the rules that needs to be created? Why we use the reopen rules is, whichever the GL accounts we are keeping here in this reopen page, only that GL accounts will be used in the reopen in the next period or next category, whatever it might be. So when I am reopening it, what are all the rules it needs to consider? I can consider the reopen rules based on the combination of account, flow, intco, entity and reporting currency. Why only these 5 dimensions are shown here? Because these dimensions you have chosen as detailed line items in your template under this particular section. All those dimensions will be shown as the combination on which your reopen rule will be set up. If I keep blank, that means any combination can be set. I am keeping only account BS122. That means only BS122 is allowed to reopen in the next period when I use reopen option when I am creating a journal. And when it is reopening, how it should reopen in the destination. This is also same dimensions, and whether you want sign to be same or if you want a reverse sign. If you want reverse sign, you put it as minus. And when it is reopening, it should reopen with a different account name or different flow. You can maintain those details here. If you are not maintaining, whatever is the source will be taken as destination. And if you put plus, same value will be taken. If you put minus, negative value of this will be taken into consideration. So this reopen rules you have to set up at the initial stages, and you have to discuss with the client which are all the accounts that needs to be form part of the reopening criteria. Only those accounts will keep in the reopen criteria. Then save the template. Now we have created the template with the header items. Detailed items are line items, and then additional header items, and we discussed about the reopen rules which needs to be created. Now once we selected reopen rules, here it will show reopen logic as yes. That means we have created the reopen logic and we can use the reopen rule for the journal vouchers. And the additional header count, as we discussed, we created date and gap. 2 additional headers we created, that has been shown here. And then once we start creating the journal entries, it will add the number of journal entries here. And here there is something called journal parameters. This is similar to our debit and credit rule, where you want your debit is equal to credit, like what we see in F5 postings. If you want that enforcing of balanced journals, you have to select this. And once you select reopen logic as yes, you have to allow this reopen logic by selecting in the journal parameters column. And restrict the number of entries to be displayed. That means on how many line items of journal vouchers can be displayed in one page, that you can set 20 or 15 or 10, whatever you want to keep. These parameters needs to be set using the journal parameters once you create a template. Once you create the template, you can delete it, you can open, you can set the journal parameters. If you have created any journals, you can delete the journals directly from here if you are having access to delete, and then you can refresh it. This is with respect to the creation of journal template and setting up of additional header, and then reopen logic, and then journal parameters setup. Once you have done through administration screen, the end user can post the entries using the home button, because administration screen is for customization purposes, and from the end user perspective he can directly post using this particular area, consolidation central and then journals. And if you see here, the model to which you want to post the journals has to be selected here. Training underscore plan journals are not enabled, that is why it is showing error message like this. Now you select consolidation. Now system will allow you to post the journal entries. Now if you see here, the new button is enabled, and if you see here, these 4 dimensions are displayed here. Why? Because if you remember, when I am creating my template, I have header items and line items. In header items I have selected 4 dimensions, in line item I have selected 5 dimensions. So that 4 header items will automatically display here as a header items. So whenever you open the new template, new journals, system will display these header items there also. So if you want to select a different header items, you can select inside the template also, and you can create the journal. We'll discuss that. I'll select a particular period, say 2013.jan. Say no scope, audit trial. I'm putting other adjustments. Now when I open the new, system will display these values in the new screen also as a header items. Now if you see, category is actual, audit trail is other adjustments, no scope, January 2013, which we have selected in the previous screen through header items. Now when it is creating a new entry, system will create it as a tab, like how we see it in our web. The same way it will create each journal as a tab in the BPC web screen. No, the template, everything needs to be, as we discussed, Dinesh, administration section has all the customization activities. Whatever the journals templates we are creating through the customization screen called administration. Like business rules, you cannot create directly in Excel. It has to be created through the administration screen, and some of the data manager packages you are linking through Excel. That's it. So it's a combination. Now we'll put some test entry. Here, if you see, there are multiple options when I am posting the journal entry. One is balanced, and it is shown in the grayed out mode. Why it is in the grayed out mode? Because if you remember, when I am creating my journal templates, in journal parameters, I selected balanced journals as tick mark. That is why system is taking this as a grayed out mode, and every entry should have your debit and credit should be equal. Then only the entry will be posted. Reopen in the next period, as we discussed, reopen we have chosen as F. So we will discuss later on how this will work, and auto reverse how it will work, how multiple headers and multiple values will work out. We will discuss one by one. First we will discuss one journal entry. And if you see here, the status, it is showing new. Once we save it, it will show as saved. Once we post it, it will show as posted. and system will create the journal numbering, and it is system numbering, internal numbering. We cannot create external numbering. And if you are creating group IDs, that is multiple headers and multiple line items, system will create a group ID. That we will discuss when we are creating the multiple headers and values. But the ID will be internal numbering created by system, and status will show what is the current status of this particular journal voucher. And this is the journal entry screen. These line items, 5 dimensions are appearing because we have chosen 5 dimension as line item dimensions. And then debit and credit and remark for any of your remarks. You can keep the description of the JV here. And then additional properties. As we discussed, we have created 2 additional properties, date and US GAAP. And multi-posting, which is applicable for multiple headers and values. Once we select this, only then this will be activated. At that time, we'll discuss how this will work. Till that time, it will be in the grayed out mode. I will post some entries. I'm choosing some random entries just to show you the transactions, how it will work. Test JV. I am putting some additional properties just to have additional details. And suppose if I am putting 100 here, now try to save. System will save the journal entry. Like how a park and go feature in F5, here generally what we will give is at the user level we will ask them to only save the journal entries. Whichever is relevant will be posted by the consolidation team looking into the entries posted by the different entities related journals postings or adjustment postings. So generally users will be given save access and the consolidation team will be given the post related transactions. So they have a right to post the journals, only the users will have save the option. When they are saving, system will not check debit is equal to credit or not, because it is only saving the entry and it is not posting the entry. When it is posting, then system will check the debit equal to credit or not. So if I try to post the same, see journal posting failed. If you want to see the details, see balancing validation has been failed because debit is not equal to credit. Now you try to, once you save the template, system will show status as saved. Now we are modifying the values, that is why system is showing the status as modified. Now once you modify, you can save it, or if you are having directly post related access, you can directly post also. For our information, we'll just save. Now see the status has been changed to saved. So if you do any modification, system will show status as modified. Then once you post it, system will create the posting entry into the system. And then system ID will be generated like this. Now I'll try and go post. Select which you want to post. Now see, one journal entry has been posted. Now I'm just closing this. In the home screen, now if you see, the journal entry which has been posted has been displayed and the entry status is posted and then date. Now if you want to preview this template, select that. It will show the preview in the below screen itself. If you select this checkbox, if you deselect this checkbox, system will not show the preview. You have to open it in order to see the particular journal. If you want to see high level details, you can select preview. System will show in the below screen. Now you can open the journal by selecting open. Then it will create it as a tab. Now the posted journal, once you open, see how the system will display. It will be the locked status. You cannot change any values. Everything will be in the grayed out mode once it is posted. Even though it is posted, but later on the management feels that this entry was wrong. Then what they have to do? They cannot edit the posted journal entry. Either they have to post a reversal journal, or you have an option to unpost the journal and again make the modifications and then again submit the journal for posting. And again you can post the journal entry. Generally we will be giving it the unposting of access to the manager finance, who will be looking after the entire consolidation activities once the journal entries are being posted by the consolidation team. So whichever is he feels that this journal entry is wrong, he can unpost it and then ask the end users to make the modification, or he himself can do the modifications and post the journal directly without informing the end users. So I'm just unposting it in order to see the difference. Unpost. Now once you have unposted, if you see here, the previously locked things have been gone. Now if you come to home screen and see the entry status also, it will show in the unposted. Directly you can post it from here, or you can unpost it from here also, or you can do it from here also. Both the options are available either from the home screen or through the template journal entry screen. So I'm just changing it. And then I'm posting the journal entry. Now the journal entry has been posted. Now come here. Now the status is showing posted. Once the journal entries are posted, generally what happens in live scenarios, once the manager is also satisfied with the postings and all, they will log the journal entries so that nobody can change these particular journals. But sometimes what happens is later on, for say you might have posted say 50 journal adjustment entries when you are doing the consolidation. But later on, once the management is approved, they will have a profit or whatever it might be. They will have one profit which is unaudited profit. After the auditors came, there might be a requirement to do the modifications for the existing postings, or there may be additional requirement to post the modification entries. If the existing entries needs to be modified, again the locked entries needs to be unlocked first and then you have to post it again. So once the management feels that the entries are posted properly, then he can log the journals. So where you can freeze your profit with respect to your management reporting is management related profit is concerned. Now if you feel that after the audit has came and they want to revise this entry, first what you have to do, since you have logged it, first you have to unlock the journal. Again, if you want to do the modifications, first unlock, and after unlocking, again you have to unpost it, because whatever the sequence we followed, the same sequence backwards we need to follow. So even though if you have unlocked it, you cannot go and modify the postings. See, still it is showing in this because it is in the posted status. What you need to do, you need to again unpost it. Then do the modifications and then do the same process like save, post, and then lock. Say they want to make it as say 250. To make the changes, and then save, or if you have direct access, post. Then again the posted journal, you have to lock it once the auditor is satisfied. So in this way, whenever you are locking and unlocking, the same process backward also needs to be followed. So once the data is, or once the JV is locked, if you see, you cannot delete it, you cannot copy it, and you cannot post or unpost or ungroup. If you want to copy this journal entry, then it should be in the unlocked status. Now select unlock. Now select. Now see, the copy to option will be enabled. That means even though if you want to copy it, it should not be in the locked status. Then only you can copy the journal. I'll use the copy to option. When I am copying it, I can copy it to the next period. That means the time will be shown as February 2013, or I can choose any other period, any other category, audit trail and scope. Why only these 4 dimensions are displayed here? These are the header items which are displayed here. Since we are copying, that means we want to keep the same line items. That is why system is not asking at this level what is the line item changes you want when you copy it. That is why it is asking what are all the changes that is required at header level. Once you copied it, in that copied JV you can do the line item changes also. But at the first instant it will ask what are all the header related items you want to do the changes. Now suppose I am putting copy to the next period. That means time I am keeping it as a next period. I am saying copy it to the, instead of actual, I want to copy it to category plan. Now press OK. Now system has copied, one journal has been copied, but system is not displaying the copied journal. Why? Because when we select these as header items, so whatever these header item related information only will be displayed here, because here we are saying filter by context. For this particular journal, the context is nothing but these 4 parameters. But when I am copying it, I copied it to the plan period, sorry, plan category, and this as February, which is not there in the context. That is why it is not displaying the other JVs which has been posted. So in order to display the additional things, we have to change this filter to advanced query. Based on our request, we need to query the what are all the JVs we require, or based on that query it will take. I'll go to advanced query. So I want along with actual the plan details also, and then along with January I want February, March also. I'll just keep March also in order to see other entries. Press OK. Now see, because this has not been taken into consideration because I am filtering based on the advanced query. Now the context becomes irrelevant. That is why it is showing other context related values also in this particular screen. So wherever it is required, you can choose advanced query. Based on your query, what are all the query related JVs, it will display here. Now when I copy it, system will show the description as copy test 1. That is first journal voucher description it will show. And by default system will show in the saved status, because it will not directly post unless you go and post the JV, because you are just copying it. There might be a requirement to do little modifications either towards amount or towards any line item. Any line items might be required. That is why system will only save it. So when you copy it, wherever it is small changes are required, like amount or only particular entity needs to be changed. Suppose if this entry is belonging to say Africa, Algeria. So that changes you want to make it. You don't want to select all the additional items again and again. So you will just use the copy option. So wherever the changes are required, only do those changes, and then you can alter either remarks, and then you can post the job. Now since we modified the details, it is showing modified. Once you post it, it will show the status as posted. Now come here, see, it is showing the status as posted. Now we will discuss the other options in the JV, like we'll copy this, copy to the same time, and category I'll say as actual. Now I have a copied version. Now go here. I'll put reverse. So when I want to reverse, I have an option to auto reverse. Auto reverse means system will automatically post a reversal entry in the next period. Here we are taking PL 510 as debit and BS 122 as credit. So in the auto reverse journal, BS 122 will be debited and PL 510 will be credited. Why? Because generally why we use auto reversal entries? Just to create provisional entries, we'll use provisional entries at the month end, which needs to be automatically reversed in the next period in the first date, because at that month end we'll have additional provisions might be required, or that provision might not be required at all. Depending upon that requirement for that month end, we'll create new provisions. So any provisional entries generally will reverse in the next period. So if you are creating say 30 or 40 provisional entries, you might fail to reverse those entries if you are not keeping the auto reverse provision. Because if you want to manually do, you have to manually select what are all the provisional entries you made in this particular period, and in the next period go back and reverse all those 30 entries manually, which will be a cumbersome job. So for those purpose, what are all the provisions generally people create? They will choose the auto reverse option. So that system will automatically create a reversal postings once this JV has been posted. Now I put reversal and I selected auto reverse. Then post. Now journal number 4 will be created as a reversal postings in the next period. Now the period is February. The next period will be in the March. Now come here. See, auto reversal postings have been created because I have selected auto reverse. Now if you want to see the journal, go to open. Now see the period, it is March. Previously the entry is in February. Now if you see PL51, which is debit in previous, is credited, and BS122, which is credit in previous entry, it has been debited. If you want, you can see that entry. You can open multiple tabs like this. See, here PL510 is debit. Here PL510 is credit in the next period. So this is how you can use your provisional entries to be reversed in the next period. This you can edit or modify if you want anything. You can just post, or you can modify the description and post the journal entries, because system will just show it in the saved status. You have to manually go and post it. Now post. Now come here. See, this is the reversal entry which has been posted. Now we'll open another journal. Open. I'll just unpost it just to show another entry. Now I have a February journal in plan version. I have something called auto reverse, which we discussed in the reopen rules. Auto reverse, which we discussed as a reversal in the next period, the debit will become credit and credit will become credit. And there is another option called reopen, which we discussed as a reopen rules which we created. Reopen in the next period. Now if we select this and then post the journal, that means only these entries can be used as reopen journals in the next period. Other entries cannot be used. Now come here, the journal 2, which I have selected as a reopen journal. Now come and select reopen. System will ask from what category and what time period, what is the destination you want to reopen. I am having plan category. I want to reopen February journal. So in destination, I want to have that in actual, and I want to reopen in the same period. Now there is a reopen journal that has been posted. Now if you see here, the reopen journal is showing only one line item. Even though the journal 2, I'll open, which is the original journal, and this is the reopened journal, 5th entry, which is based on second entry. Now if you see reopen journal 2. In journal 2, I am having both debit and credit, 510 and BS122. And BS122 is showing credit. But in my journal 5, which is a reopen in the next period, it is showing only the credit entry, that is BS122. The debit line item PL510 is not showing. Why? Because of our rules which we created in the journal template creation. If you remember, in our reopen logic, I said only BS122 needs to be reopened. Reopen rules, I am setting only this account. If I kept PL510 also, then that account will also be reopened in the next period. In order to show you clearly, that is why I selected only one account. Then in the next, when it is reopening, it will just reopen with that particular account only, not the other line items. Now if you try to post it, system will throw up an error because your debit is not equal to credit. Balance validation has been failed. Now if you want to save and post this journal, you have to create a debit entry also and then post the journal. Like this, you can use the reopen logic. So now we discussed the balance, reopen and auto reverse entries. Now we will discuss multiple headers and multiple values, which will enable this multi-posting. Now come here. I'll just copy this, or I'll create a new entry so that it will be easy. Multi-journal. Sure. When I'm posting multi-journals, what it refers to is I can have multiple header items. That means whatever here the header items I have chosen, I can choose multiple headers in one thing, and multiple values. Values is nothing but line items. So wherever you want to post multiple headers and multiple line items at a time. Suppose, take an example. I have a requirement to post the entries in January, February, March, like that, all 12 months. The same entry I am posting every month. And I am posting in both actual category as well as plan category. So if I want to post the same entry 12 months and then again the actual and plan 12 into 2, 24 entries I need to post, which will be a very time consuming. Instead, if I create a multiple headers and multiple value items where I know this entry is multiple periods it will post, then I can choose which one I want to have. So my requirement is both actual and plan category. So I will choose multiple header items as category as my header, multiple header. Once you selected category, if you see the header item, the other 3 dimensions is shown, the category dimension will be moved out of the header item. Here you choose what are all the multiple headers you want to post it simultaneously. I am choosing only 2. You can choose 3 or 4 also according to your requirement. And multiple value items. If you see value items, I am saying out of this time also I want to post multiple values. So my line items will remain the same for different periods. I want to post it in Jan, Feb as well as March. Now I can choose 12 months, but for our example purposes I am choosing 3 months. So now what it will happen, 2 into 3, 6 entries will automatically created without much difficulty. Now in the multi-posting screen I have added headers and I have added values. If you want to add additional things, you can put it like this. If you want to remove, you can select and remove. If you want to add also, you can add any additional things. Once you selected from here, multiple headers and multiple values. Now come to the journal entry screen. Now see 2013.01, 2 and 3. which is nothing but time period, which we have chosen as value criteria, and multiple headers is actual as well as plan. System will post automatically into both the categories. Why it is showing only value things is because category is always fixed. The same entry will be posted in January against actual as well as plan. Now we'll post one entry and we'll see how it will create the multiple entries. I'm just putting some remark. You can keep it any remark according to your requirement. Now I'll try to post this JV. Now if you see here, it is showing 0000 like this. Once you post it, system will create a sequential numbering, and then you will able to see this group ID will be created for this journal. Now select. Now see, the group ID is showing 6, but individually it will post multiple entries. Now you come here and see the multi JV. The group ID is 66666, but individually it is posting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Why? Because system is creating the multiple entries. 3 into 2, total 6 entries will be posted. Now, if you want to print this JV, you have an option inside this JV. Like report. In this report, system will show what are all the detailed line items and header items, and then what is the debit and credit, and then you have a print option here, and then it will show the report generated, ID number, status, posted by, all these details it will show, and you can print this JV. Either you can do it from there inside the journal template, or from here you can select report. It will open the same screen, and then you can print this JV. You can do it either from the home screen or inside the JV. So this is with respect to the JVs for all the different options that are available in posting the journal entries with respect to the consolidation. So if you have any doubts, please let me know. Once we created these JVs, if you see, there are total 11 journal entries has been created. Now go to administration, close this. See, the total journal count has been 11. So once you keep on adding, system will show in the administration screen how many journal entry has been posted. These journal entries which have been posted, if somebody is having deletion rights, he can delete the journals directly also. I'll just use this option because we have already seen how the journal entries are displayed. I'll just delete the journals. It will show all the journal entries created will be lost. See, now the journal entries has been 0. Now come here and refresh. See, all the journal entries which you created have been gone. Generally, this option will not be provided for the end user, only for the super user with respect to the IT will be provided this option of deletion of journal entries. So if you have any doubts, please let me know so that we'll clear, and then we'll move on to the next topic called controls. Dinesh is having a question, how do we move these changes to ECC? Why you want to move to ECC, Dinesh? First of all, tell me what is the reason. Because these are the adjustment posted at the group level, not at your individual company code level. So where your ECC holds only the individual company code related data. Why you want to transfer it back to ECC? I don't understand the reason. Any other doubts? Okay. Just a minute. I'll be back. Then we'll discuss on the controls part. Hi everyone. Any other doubts with respect to journals before we move on to the controls? Okay. Then we will discuss on the controls part. Controls are nothing but the validations in the BPC system. If you remember, when we were discussing about the planning, we discussed about validations in BW system through UJ underscore validations. If you remember, that validations, whatever we have created in BPC is master data validations. That means if product A is equal to this, and it should only be allowed in entity A or entity B or Australian entity, like that. Same things can be used for consolidation also. Like for consolidation purposes, wherever the intercompany GL accounts are there, your trading partner field or nothing but intco field should not be I underscore none or third party, whatever you are creating. Then this will work as a control whenever you are loading the data. If there is an intco related GL is selected, the intco member should not be third party. It should be a valid intercompany related value. Like this, you can use the validations with respect to master data in consolidation also through UJ validations. But here we are using the master data as source and we are creating validations. Since it is planning level, the transaction data related validations will be very less. Only master data related controls will be there because there is no reporting requirement. But when it comes to consolidation, you will be getting the data from multiple entities and from multiple places, and there will be lot of rules that are required for consolidation purposes. Suppose simple example, your equity plus reserves should be equal to your assets. So total assets is equal to total liabilities plus reserves. So that will be your normal standard practice of consolidation. So those kind of validations, those are not master data specific. Those are on transaction data because we are measuring the numbers. So only for that purpose, SAP BPC has provided validations with respect to transaction data for consolidation purposes. That is called controls. So whatever you are doing in your BW, that is called master data validations, and whatever here in doing in controls, that is called transaction data related validations. This is the difference. Now, in order to enable the controls, what are all the prerequisites we need to have? Just we'll take one more thing and we try to enable the controls apart from consolidation. Enable controls, select, press OK. Now, if you see, even though we have enabled the controls, these controls, if you go to the controls tab from the end user perspective, this administration is from consultant perspective. From end user perspective, once he sees, go to the controls monitor. Now select, we enabled it for training underscore plan. Now for training underscore plan, if you see here, this is called group and entity relationship. Whatever here we are discussing is based on the group entity relationship we maintain in consolidation purposes. That is why if you see the status, it will be automatically shown as not applicable, and as well as the group and entity relationship which we define generally in consolidation systems through ownership manager cannot be used in planning purposes. That is why this plan related model will not be used for controls purposes. So first of all, there should be a consolidation model, and then the ownership manager needs to be defined for that particular category, time period, and scope, because this is very important, the scope dimension, which you will see only in consolidation purposes. Then only you can activate the controls and trigger the controls. So the ownership manager maintenance is also mandatory in order to execute the controls. You can create the structure in the administration section as a consultant, but from the end user point of view, you want to execute, the ownership manager for that particular combination should have been created. This we'll discuss when we are discussing on the investment part, consolidation of investment part. But for our purposes, we need to know that this particular ownership manager needs to be activated in the consolidation. Then only you can use this controls monitor. Again, I'll change it back to consolidation. I'll just select Asia Pacific. I'll just see whether it is enabled or not. Now if you see here, the status will be shown as to be executed. Previously it is showing not applicable. Now it is showing to be executed, and it is showing the group and entity relationship. Why? Because this particular actual February and Asia Pacific region, the ownership manager might have maintained. I'll just go to ownership manager. See, in this ownership manager, I have maintained what is the holding company and what is the method of consolidation and what is the percentage of consolidation. Once I maintain this, then only I can use the controls monitor for this combination. That is why the prerequisite is maintenance of ownership manager. So when we are working on planning, generally there will not be any ownership maintenance, because for planning purposes there will not be ownership. Only for consolidation purposes we will maintain. So that is why we use the transaction data related controls using the controls option in consolidation, mainly in consolidation purposes. Now come here, go to the consolidation. Whenever you are creating, you can go to open. Now I have already created it. When you are creating new, you have to use this option called new. I'll go inside and I will explain one by one what each field does. Come to C1, and this is the ID which you can create as per your requirement. I have created C1, and here the type. There are two types. One is blocking controls and another is warning controls. What is the difference? When you run the consolidation, there will be, first you will trigger the controls and then you will trigger the consolidation of investments. So when you trigger the controls, if it is a blocking control and this has been blocked for some particular reason, unless you rectify this blocking entry and make it as green, you cannot trigger the consolidation of investments. That means unless this is satisfied, you cannot go ahead and trigger your consolidation of investment. Those things you create it as a blocking controls. Wherever this is just for an information purposes, which will not affect my consolidation of investment, those things you create it as a warning controls. This for our information I kept it as warning, but generally this will be kept it as blocking controls. Just to show what is the difference, I am keeping this as a warning message. And description, assets is equal to liabilities. And equation type. See, the equation types that are allowed is equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. These are the combinations. What is equation type? Wherever the validation is there, every time it will be my left hand side equal to right hand side, whether it is balance sheet or whether it is P&L, because I'll have both debit and credit. So the same concept holds in the controls also. Left is equal to right hand side. So what is left hand side will be the first expression displayed here. What is right hand side will be the second expression. Between them, what is the logic you are putting? That is the equation type. Here my logic is assets equal to liabilities. That is why my equation is liabilities. Suppose if my equation is assets greater than liabilities, then I have to select my equation type as greater than. Then system will show here the left hand side and right hand side what is the expression I need to use. Depending upon the requirement, you have to choose the equation type. And then control level. Control level is nothing but generally when you are using this particular control can be used for any of the entities without any problem. Then whatever control level you are creating, it will not have any effect. You can trigger this particular control for any of the entities. But sometimes client might have a requirement stating that I want to have this particular control to be only applicable for Asia Pac region, not for other regions, because of that accounting treatments or because of the data that is getting from Asia Pac region. Then I'll create this control as a basic control and then go to home. Yes, log off and log in. So control level. In dimensions, in entity dimension, there is a property called control level. Here, if you keep basic, standard, advanced and comprehensive, in the back end, system will take it as basic as 1, standard 2, advanced 3, comprehensive as 4. So you can use that naming convention, and if you say that for Australia, you want control only 1 to be applicable. That means whatever you are creating as a basic controls, only that will be triggered for Australia region. For all other entities, any control with any category you have used can be used as a control. But for Australia purposes, only the basic which you have created will only be applicable. Suppose if I am creating 10 as basic controls and 10 as standard controls, then for Australia only first 10 which created as a basic only will be applicable. For other entities, because we are not giving any value, all the 20 controls will be applicable. So wherever you want to make a distinction, then you have to use this control level. Otherwise, there will not be any effect. Whether you create it as a basic, advanced, comprehensive, it will not have any impact. And then breakdown dimension. This we will discuss later on in another control. Then absolute value. Absolute value is nothing but if you don't want to have divisions or multiplications, it's only value, you can select absolute value. And then when it is taking assets is equal to liabilities, what is the tolerance threshold within which you want to pass this particular control? Say if you say 10, that means if your assets is equal to liabilities is having 10 as a difference, then it will pass through. If you are putting a value, then you can say upper panel or lower panel. Upper panel means whatever you are defining in the upper hand. Lower panel is whatever you are defining in the lower panel. Suppose if you say upper panel and 10%, that means if difference is on 10% of the assets is within the difference of 10%, the liabilities is there, then this control will be passed even though the difference is there because of the tolerance threshold which you are keeping. So according to your requirement, you can keep the threshold. Then comes the expressions. Plus sign means whatever sign that is there in the system with respect to that particular GL account, the same sign we can use it. If you are putting as a minus, that means whatever the sign the system is having, it will be reversed. I am using the same sign. And what is my requirement? My assets is equal to liabilities. So I am taking my assets BS 100. My total assets is equal to total liabilities BS 200. So I am taking on the upper hand my assets, and what is the flow? Generally closing balance only will be taking. And what is the intco? I don't know whichever intco might be there. My total intco should be assets is equal to liabilities, and audit also audit total multiplied by 1. Here you have an expression called multiplied or divide. Why I am choosing multiplied by 1? Because my asset value I want multiplied by 1 will be my logic. And then the lower side or right hand side, whatever you want to call it. If you want to use the same sign, you have to use it. And whatever the dimensions here you have chosen, account, flow, intco, audit trail, these are the 4 dimensions which we have chosen. On the right hand side also you have to choose the 4 dimension values. That I am choosing total liabilities and then balance flow, intco, audit, and this is also multiplied by 1. Apart from these, whatever you are choosing in the top side, there are additional 3 values that is important on the lower panel. Year offset, period, and category. To which category you want to trigger this particular control? Generally for consolidation purposes it is always actual. And year offset and period. Sometimes I might have a requirement stating that, suppose I am taking say total liabilities. My requirement is my total liabilities of the current period should not be greater than 10% of the previous year. Suppose my previous year is 100. My total liabilities this year should not be more than 10%. That is, it should not greater than 110. That is my logic. And I am just creating this control just to as a warning message, just to see whether my assumptions which I created has been working properly or not for my understanding purposes or for my other reporting purposes. Now what I will take? I will take the current year liabilities here and I will use greater than sign, and I will put year offset as -1, and I will put, if period I am checking only with December, I will put December period. Then what it will do? This is the 2014 value. This is the 2013 value. So system will take -1 year, that is this one. Sorry, this is 2013 value and this is 2014 value. So -1 it will take 2013 period. What is the value it will check, and what is the value here it will check. If this is not greater than this, then system will allow this to be passed. For those kind of comparisons comparing to the previous period or before the previous period, you will use year offset and period. According to your client requirement, you might need to use that options. If you keep it blank, then same period and same year. These are the different options you will be using when you are creating a control. And then documents. Documents is nothing but if you want to add anything where you want to input the values or any web report or web input form in order to support this particular control, you can keep it as a document reference. Once you create this, you have to save and validate and close. Now I created control 1. Similarly, control 2 also I am creating just for an information. Now in control 2, I am creating this as a blocking control just for my understanding purposes. And I am using basic. See here, there is a breakdown dimension. I am choosing the breakdown dimension as audit trial. And if you see, once I choose any dimension as a breakdown dimension, against that it will show an information button. If you select, it will show as breakdown dimension. What is the difference between a breakdown dimension related control and other controls is nothing but, suppose in previous control I am saying my assets is equal to liabilities. Suppose take the same example, if I am creating without breakdown dimension, system will check for all assets, for all flows, for all intco and for all audit trials, it will check my assets is equal to liabilities or not. Suppose in my previous example, I'll just use one Excel in order to explain this. Okay, suppose if I am saying my assets equal to liabilities. If I have not selected any breakdown dimension, I am selecting audit total. Then at audit total level, suppose if I am having at input level 50 and this as 60 and other adjustments, this I am having say 60, this I am having 40 and others, this I am having none and this I am having 10. Okay, I'll keep this as 50. So I'll keep this as 40, 40, 90, this as 10. Okay, now it is 110. So if I select at audit total level, this is 110 and this is also 110. So at total level it is being tallied. So I don't have any problem. If I say breakdown dimension as audit total as a breakdown dimension, then what it will do at each of the combination of the audit trial, that means input, other adjustments and others, at each line item it will check whether assets is equal to liabilities or not. So not passed. And here also it is not passed, and here also it is passed. So at each line item level it will check. So depending upon your requirement, whether you want to create at total level this combination of control or at individual level, depending upon your requirement, you have to choose. If you select individual level, then at each individual line item level, the rule needs to be passed. If you are selecting at total level, even though at individual level there is a differences, but at total level this is satisfied, then the control is satisfied. So according to your requirement, you have to choose the correct option. So here I am choosing breakdown dimension as audit trial. So it will show like this as an information. And here maximum of 2 dimensions you can choose as breakdown dimensions. So with that breakdown dimension, suppose if I am using, along with that I am using flow also, then what it will do? Suppose say flow closing balance. For closing balance, for each of audit trial it will check for input, closing balance. Suppose there is opening balance also, then again for opening balance, input, and then adjustments, and then other adjustments. So it will further break down if you are creating additional dimension. So the maximum allowed is 2 breakdown dimensions can be chosen. So depending upon your requirement, you can choose the number of breakdown dimensions, or you can leave it blank also. That is the difference. Here I am using net profit P&L is equal to retained earnings balance sheet. That is why I am using net profit PL net profit, and balance sheet I am putting BS 212. I am using the same time but only using the breakdown dimension as audit trial in order to show the difference. Now validate and close. Like that you can create the number of controls whichever is required according to your requirement. Now even though I am creating controls, sometimes what happens is I might have created, say for example, 20 controls. Out of 20 controls, only 10 controls are required for monthly consolidation purposes, because when I am doing monthly consolidation, I am not reporting it to the external authorities, so some of the controls will not play a major role in my consolidation. So if I use the same 20 controls, it will be cumbersome for me to do the monthly consolidation. So I don't require to trigger the monthly other additional 10 things. But for my quarterly purposes, suppose if I am using Jan to December, so for March, that is first quarter, I need to have this 20 controls needs to be triggered because I am reporting it to the external authorities on quarterly basis. So for my monthly purpose, I only require 10. For my consolidation on a quarterly basis, I require 20. So that is why SAP BPC suggests create these controls as sets. So now create this as set. Now suppose I am saying set 1. I am using 10 controls which are applicable for monthly consolidation. In set 2, I am creating 20 controls which is used for quarterly consolidation. Once you create sets, you have to assign the sets to the time period. So for Jan, Feb, March, like this it will be there. Here you will use set 1, here you will use set 1, here you will use set 2. Then what system will do? For quarterly purposes, the 20 controls will be triggered. For monthly consolidation, only set 1 will be triggered. So in order to satisfy those requirements, SAP has followed this approach, creation of a sets and then assignment of sets to the months. These are the 2 mandatory requirements we need to follow because of those complications. Now you go to sets creation, go to sets. Now I created only one set because for my understanding purposes, but like that you can create multiple sets. So in set what you can do? You can add what are all the controls. Suppose if I am having 20 controls, I want only 10, I will select only 10 in set 1. If I want 20 in the second set, I will select all the 20 and create set 2. Now I have created sets and you can give the description. Once you create and add it as a set, system will display the information of each of the control which you created. This you created as warning, this you created as a block, and equation type, threshold limit and threshold percentage if any. Then what is the level of control, breakdown, absolute value has been selected or not. Then save. Close. Now what we discussed, we create sets and then we assign the sets to the consolidation purposes. Go to assignments. When I'm creating assignments, it is always by category and time. Or else I will select category. I want to assign it to actual category and say time period. Okay. So now if you see here, system is asking at each month level which set you want to display. Now I have created only set 1. As I said, ideally for monthly consolidation I will use set 1. For quarterly consolidation I will use set 2, which will have additional controls to be triggered only for March, only for June, and then September, and then December for this particular period. So like this you can create, and monthly also you can have different sets working. That is according to your requirement, you can keep it. In order to support those provision, SAP has provided this option. Now here you can, suppose if you double click here, go to edit. Now if you see the drop down box, if you are having multiple, it will display one by one. Now you can select what are all the things that is applicable for September and then save, then close. Now we have created controls. If you see here, we have created 2 controls. For that we have created 1 set, and we have done the assignments for 24 months. So it is showing 24 because I have created assignment for 2014 also. That is why it is showing how many number of assignments you have done. So how many controls you created, sets, and how many months you have assigned. So the process is, first is creation of controls, control creation, and then creation of sets according to your requirement. Even though if you are having same controls used across all the months, then you have to create at least 1 set and assign the same set to all the months. But creation of sets is mandatory. And then assignment of set to months. You can assign the same set or different set according to your requirement. But this is the process you have to follow in BPC system. This is with respect to the customization part, which will be done in administration. Execution part, we need to have ownership manager defined for that particular period, where you have entity and group relation maintained in the ownership manager with respect to the other values, which we will discuss later on. Then we can execute the controls part. Otherwise we cannot execute the controls through controls monitor from the home screen of the end user. So till now, if you are having any doubts, please let me know. Dinesh is having a question. Are these controls used when data loads is from BW or BPC? Hope I don't sound stupid. Yes, Dinesh. When I set controls, this is not at execution level. Like controls, as I said, in home screen, there is a monitor called controls monitor. From here, you have to run the controls. As I said, if the controls are not passed, once you created, you cannot trigger consolidation of investment. That is the logic. Like in our BW, you have specifically mentioned for data manager, for input templates, for journals, this validation needs to be triggered, yes or no. But this option is not available here. Once you create controls, it needs to be passed. If it is a blocked control, it needs to be passed. If it is a warning, then there is no requirement to pass even just a warning. You can go ahead and trigger your consolidation of investment. So that is the logic here. System will follow for transaction related validations. You got the point? Okay. Now if you see here, controls monitor. The next is consolidation monitor, where we trigger our consolidation. If you see here, the control status, it needs to be in the passed status in order to trigger the consolidation through consolidation monitor. So these will be controlled using this controls monitor, and then which is dependent on the consolidation of investment. Okay. Now we have maintained it for February, so I'll take the same thing. The ownership manager is maintained for February, so I'll use the same logic for Asia Pacific region. Okay, so I have this. Now in order to see this, we'll enter some data and we'll run the controls in order to test how the controls are working. Before going into that, we'll just take a quick 5 minutes break and we'll be back, because I need to take some data out and then log in again. Just give me 5 minutes. So you just take a break of 5 minutes and we'll resume back after 5 minutes. Hi everyone, shall we start? Sorry, there was a problem with Excel, so I have to stop it and I have to restart the system. Can we start? Okay, so open any template. No. This is just a demo. So whatever we have discussed till now, that we are just seeing the demo, which will take 10-15 minutes. In our next class, we can complete the big topic called consolidation of investments. So I am putting for Australia entity audit trial as input and other adjustment, and what I am using investments, land and building, shareholders equity, retained earnings and all. I am putting some values. I'll select February 2013, for which I have maintained the master data. Scope, Asia Pacific. Now I am putting input and other adjustments also. So for other adjustments, I'll put some values. Say sales 5,000, intercompany sales 3,000, and my expenses is say 4,000, and I'm saving the data. Okay. In controls 1, I'm having 5,000 as investment, land and receivables till here. I'm having total 15,000, and shareholders equity I kept 6,000. I'll keep this as 4,000 and debt as 3,000. So there is a difference of 2,000. And in other adjustments, I'll keep here say 3,000. And here I am putting profit as 4,000. In C2, my income is 10,000, 30, 20, 50, 60, 60 minus 8, 52, 52 minus 9 is 43,000. So there is a difference, and here my profit is 4,000, C1 and C2. So I'll maintain this as 4,000, and we'll see how the system will show up the error. Now for control 1, what I said, my assets should be equal to liabilities. For control 2, what I said, my profit, which is the net of figure, should be equal to my net profit account in balance sheet. This is the net profit account, that is retained earnings account. So we'll go here and trigger the controls. When you are triggering the controls, here I have maintained the data only for Australian entity and I have not maintained it for other entities. Either you can trigger at entity level or at group level. If I select entity and select run controls, then system will show here the same actual time above and then entity it will show. If I select here and press run controls, instead of entity it will show scope. That means it will trigger for the other entities which we defined in the scope in the ownership manager. Now I am selecting a top node in order to show the difference. Now if you see, for China it is showing run successfully because we don't have a data at all, then it is 0 is equal to 0. If you want to see the results, you can see in the below section, open controls. For C2, for China entity, it is showing assets is equal to liabilities because there is some value is there, some 1 lakh in the liability side, which is not there in your asset side. That is why it is showing error. But the second thing, it is showing past. If you see the second thing, where we kept audit trial as breakdown dimension. If you remember, audit trial we kept it as breakdown dimension. System will show for each of the member whether your net profit equal to balance sheet or not, net profit equal to balance sheet account or not. It will show at each level and it will show each level whether it is passed or not. That is the importance of using audit trial. And when I am saying audit trial, I said you can use maximum 2 dimensions as a breakdown dimension. If you see breakdown dimension 1 and 2, if you have used 2, then second will also be shown here. And this is the equation. And what is the result? It will show here. Threshold if you have created, it will show. If it is a warning message or a blocking message, it will show. Why I have opened this is just a warning message. Even though it is failed, it is only warning message and this is a blocking message. That is why if you see here, in the home screen, it is showing green color. Even though first C1 is failed, still it is showing green color because C1 is only a warning message. It will not stop us to go ahead for the next step. That is why even if C1 is failed, it is showing passed with warning. If you see the status, the least restrictive status will be shown. Green will be the number 1 status and next is red. If one of the controls is with red status, it will show the status as red. Even though the status at individual control level is red, since it is a warning type of control, the overall status will show green. If for an example, for China, instead of C1, C2 is having error, then system will automatically show this as a failed one. Now we see the same thing in Australia region. Now if you see here, both warning control and blocking controls have been shown in red color. Now open control results. Now here if you see, my assets is showing 80,000 and my liabilities is not showing any value. So the total difference is 80,000. And if you see my liability section, net profit and retained earnings. As I said, when I use the breakdown dimension, at each level it will check whether it is passed or not. For other adjustments, 4,000 is 4,000. If you remember, in other adjustment column, here I am having 4,000 and here total income is 8,000, expenses is 4,000. So profit is 4,000. So at other adjustment level, my net profit balance sheet account, that this is equal to my P&L net profit. So that is why it is showing 4,000 equal to 4,000. But on the other hand, here my total income is 50 plus 10, 60. 60 minus 17 or 13 is shown as 47,000. Here my profit is 47,000, but in balance sheet what I am having, it is only 4,000. That is why there is a difference of 43,000. That is why it is showing failed. If one of the things have been failed, it will show as failed, because this is a blocking thing. And even though it is satisfied, it will, if the blocking is failed, it will show as a blocked criteria in your home screen. Now if it is failed status, now what we will do, we will make this as C1. We will make input at Australia level C2 at 43,000, that is 47,000. Okay, and we will try to save data. Now come here to refresh, run controls. Now once you changed the data, now if you see here the below screen, it will show to be executed, because you have a changes happened in your database. Now if you see here Australia region, the C1 control is only failing, not the C2. C2 has been successful because what I made profit here is equal to profit here in the balance sheet. That is why C2 is being passed, but C1 is only failure. When I say C1 is failure, C1 is only warning message. That is why it is showing green color. If C1 is not failing and C2 is being failed, then it will show error message, because you are using blocking control which is stopping you to perform the next activity. So that is how your status will show depending upon the blocked criteria or warning criteria which you have chosen. If you are choosing additional dimensions as a breakdown dimensions, then system will check at each level it should tally. Otherwise, at total level, if it is tallying, that is enough. So depending upon that requirement, you have to maintain your controls with breakdown or without breakdown. And when you're keeping, you can keep with the threshold limits also according to your requirement. So this is with respect to the controls. If you are having any doubts, please let me know. Okay, then we are left out with ownership manager as well as the consolidation of investment part. Tomorrow we might require to take 2 hour 40 minutes class, because we might require an extended time. So make sure that you prepared for that, because we require 2.5 hours to 2 hour 45 minutes to complete this, as well as the other remaining topic with respect to the consolidation as well as planning. Dinesh, whatever we are discussing, these are the demos only. So that is why when I clearly told at the beginning of the class itself, we will not be concentrating on one single demo. Instead, we will be taking each of the topic and we are discussing each thing what it does, and then we are discussing a demo on top of it. You can develop yourself by taking a lot more examples and you can trigger on that. Because if I talk one demo, then you will be missing other topics with respect to that particular topic. Yeah, you can ask the questions now. Yeah, as I said, Hari, that is the same thing what Dinesh also asked. So whatever we are covering it like a demo only. For each topic, we are creating a demo and we are running the demos. As I said, for planning, we will see what are all the different aspects we consider at the planning as a demo level. Because consolidation is topic wise, we are creating each topic and we are seeing what are all the each tab does, and then we are discussing how it will work. Hari is asking a question, all these controls, they need to be run during data load or before or after. As I said, Hari, clearly, for validations which are created as a master data validations, you have a requirement to select data load yes or no, like that. But since the consolidation is happening, you can load the data. On loading the data, after loading the data, you will trigger the consolidation related controls. So if there is error, either you can post a journal entry to rectify that, or you might require to reload the data. Hari is having a question, at what point ownership model is assigned to consolidation? Hari, if you remember in our first consolidation class, when we are creating consolidation, there are two models that are being attached. One is rate model and another is ownership model. So at that point itself, before creating consolidation, you have to attach these two. Unless you attach it, you cannot create a consolidation at all. Okay, Dinesh is having a question. Client has 7.5 ms and experiencing slow performance issue running the reports. What checkpoints do I need to do? See, performance issues, Dinesh, we cannot say because of this the performance issues are happening, because 7.5 mainly depends upon the SQL system. I cannot able to comment because of those will be based on the SQL related commands which you created, or if there is any EV functions which you have written on the template which you have created, or if you are creating a template, even though the requirement to create the number of lines is less, you might be choosing at all level. There are a lot of things that will be there depending upon the template and depending upon the configuration what you have created, and depending upon your system backend architecture. You have to check with basis team. First, the basis consultant will help you with regard to the performance issues, whether the system is having adequate capabilities towards RAM and all. And then the second issue will be, if it is not there, check whether any EV formulas are affecting the performance. And third, you have to see how many rows that is getting created and what is the logic it is getting created, whether you have used the EV get functions, because 7.5 mainly depends upon the EV functions creation. So you have to check whether any EV get functions have been used or any retrieval functions have been used. If more retrieval and more get functions, then automatically performance will be low. So you cannot judge this is the only condition because of that performance issue is happening. There will be a lot of conditions that will be there. Yeah, Hari is having a question. So when we are having a data load, so after the data load, if I am having any errors, then what I need to do? Yeah, you have to drop the data and you have to reload the data. I did not get you. What is formatting means? Fact and fact to table system on the back end it will create. So you can check with your basis consultant how it is creating the fact and fact to entries. Hari, I did not get your question at all because error log for records only means, see, data load is a separate process and then controls is a separate process. So when you are loading the data, you will not have any errors because you are running the controls after loading the data. So both is contradictory statements here. And once you loaded the data, like when I show you the consolidation related results, it is showing the error where it is actually occurred. If you see here, it is showing actually where the error has been occurred. If you can use some of the rules to map only that data, like here, your assets is equal to liabilities, your assets is showing 80,000, liabilities 0. You can see that and you can match your file. If you want only data updation, you can do it, or else you can drop the data and you can reload it. Dinesh is having question also, if report is running slow, go into loop, can user stop, kill it and return? No, Dinesh, it is like your normal Excel. You have to just close your Excel and you have to come out and then relog in again. If it is only process related, you can check with your basis consultant, go to SM50 and kill the jobs. That you can do it with your basis consultant help. Even if after Excel closing, the job is triggering, then you can ask your, because basis consultant will not give you access for SM50. You have to check with your basis consultant why it is taking a lot of time. No, Dinesh, there will not be any such function to check the performance of a particular report. V is having a question, how to drop data. If you remember, when we are discussing on the data manager packages, as we said, backend deletion of a cube will not be done at the project level, because from the backend we will not be deleting anything when you are in the production system. That cannot be done, and it is not at all suggested. Only thing is, there is a package called data manager clear, which we discussed, which can clear the data which you have loaded. Suppose I am loaded for 2015, which I say it is totally wrong, I want to drop it. Select the time period as 2015 and drop the data, clear the data. That is the option. You cannot delete from the backend. I did not get you, Harry. What you want to recapitulate? Okay, full versus light optimization. See, full optimization, as I said, it will do the compression of a database. Wherever the zero records are there, it will remove the zero records, and light optimization, just it will index the database. Yeah, in 7.5 you have something called UJStat that generally people use it for MS functionalities but not for NetWeaver. That is only just the statistics it will show. It will not show you the performance issues. It will just show what is the things that are being performed on the UJ space, not the entire performance issues. It will not show anywhere. Um, I cannot say hurry because if you are going through the classes and all, 1 month is enough to complete that. And I have already shared some of the documents with respect to the migration and some of the documents on scripting. You can go through that. Yeah, I got it, Hari. It's enough. It is 1 month or 2 months, Hari. I not sure. 2 months, right? Okay, okay. Oh no, no problem. Yeah, got it, Hari. No problem. Any other questions? Uh, Tomorrow we'll try to complete because consolidation of investment will take around 1 to 1.5 hours. And for planning related small demo, we require 1 hour. So probably 2.5 hours tomorrow we can complete the entire class. So if we are not able to complete, then we have to have a separate class on the planning demo. But we'll try to manage it in tomorrow's class. If it is not happening for any reason, then we have to have an additional one more class for 1 hour, just 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Yes, Dinesh. My mail ID, I have shared the documents, so that is my regular mail ID I will be using. So you can drop me a mail on that. So generally, the first level of screening will be done by the Reiki training team because they are having two staff working on this. So if it is not possible from their end, then they will transfer it to me. Generally, sometimes what happens is there will be some system related issues. They will check and they will forward it to basis team. If it is not from their end, they are not able to solving that, they will forward it to me for my clarification. Uh, See, this whatever things we are having, you can have all those things clarified this week itself. Because from next week onwards, I am having another plans to go out. So that is why I am trying to complete this within this weekend. Oh, you mean other members of this class? Yeah, if other members are okay to share, I don't have any problem, Dinesh, because it is up to them. They want to exchange the mails through emails or not. And Hari, if you are having any additional points or clarification also, you can share them through mails also. It is okay. We will respond to those mails. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you everyone, and we'll meet in our tomorrow's class.